And Japan, which has a huge economy, has been suffering from stagflation. It is no growth for at least 10 years. And oh, by the way, Japan has virtually no energy resources. So what are the good things that are going on from the Far East? China has been engaging in soft power initiatives, that is not military, but in giving money and supporting countries around the world. If you travel to Yerevan, you will see virtually all of the buses in Yerevan are a gift from the government of China. And the challenge with soft power is there's usually a bill to pay eventually. And China is talking about a new Silk Road, and next slide will show you a couple of cautions in there. But obviously that's something that could benefit Georgia because the Silk Road came through or close to Georgia historically. South Korea is also engaged in a new Silk Road project, or taking advantage at least of China's new Silk Road. But one thing which people generally do not recognize is that Korea has a very large, fervent Christian population. In Seoul, at nighttime, you see nothing but red lighted crosses across the city, which indicate churches. And some of those churches have 10,000 people attend on a Sunday. And one of my suggestions is look at religious tourism. Look at how you can improve infrastructure to encourage South Koreans and other Christians around the world to come to Georgia. When I was here before, it was usually NATO, United States, and Georgia. So some things have improved. But Russia has its own challenges. It has energy price collapse. The price of energy has gone down. Demographics in Russia, the last I saw, Russia loses about 700,000 population every year. It has huge budget deficits, which, oh, by the way, it now has undertaken military operations in Syria and Ukraine. Crimea, don't even mention too much, it's just kind of there. And Russia has its own challenge with radical Islam. In a very few years, more than 50% of the Russian military will be non-Russian. Virtually all of those non-Russians come from Muslim countries. Of course, there's Russian interference in Georgia with trade sanctions, political pressure, and obviously the occupied territories. And that is going to simply be a continued problem or challenge for Georgia. I have made the prediction, I'll say it here, that I think in a very few years Russia is going to implode. Of course, we've been saying that about North Korea for 30 years. So I'm not placing bets. But I think if things continue as they are, you're going to see a Russia that either has strongly separatist regions as a real federation, or the federation will simply collapse and split apart. Of course, it's frustrating because Georgians are very aggressive and want things to happen now, but maybe in a few years it'll all be over. So what do I see as future challenges for Georgia? One is, I think, planning for your own security as a nation. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Obviously, restoring territorial integrity, which is somewhat similar to the first item. Democratic maturity, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes too. What am I going to talk about now? I guess climate change, pollution, tourism infrastructure, we'll talk about all of that. And of course, terrorism. Georgia has not seen anything direct, but there's estimates that 50 to 100 Georgians from Ojara and Pankisi are fighting in Syria.
Ჩვენ ვეუბნებთ, რომ საქართველოს მაინც და მაინც ტერორისტული საფრთხის წინაშე, მაგრამ თუ იმასაც გავთვალისწინებთ, დაახლოებით 50-მდე პირი აჭარიდასთან და ასე ვთქვათ, ბანკის ხეობიდან იბრძვიან აი სასის შემადგენლობაში, ეს უკვე იმის მაჩვენებელია, რომ პოტენციური საფრთხე არსებობს.
And even if ISIS is defeated as a national entity, radical Islam is going to continue, and that's a whole another lecture. So the challenge is dealing with the changing world.
I
want to talk for just a few minutes about the national security planning process because I was very much involved in it when I was working here. When you are planning security for anything, and especially for a nation, you have to look at what are its values and its interests. Now, how many here have read the Georgian National Security Strategy? You don't count. I thought that's the case. Unfortunately, very, very few people have looked at these really important documents. Because if you look at the values that have been adopted by the Georgian parliament as representatives of the Georgian people, they include what's shown up here. Obviously, territorial integrity and EU integration, economic growth, energy security, environmental security, but also civil integration and cultural security and demographic security. And typically, when a country talks about its national security, it's talking about its military, its diplomatic efforts, maybe its energy, maybe its internal affairs. But how do those things support the cultural heritage of Georgia, its religion, its language, its cultural aspects that make it Georgia? There was a process begun in 2008 called the National Security Review. After the 2008 invasion, the president set up a deputies committee which was supposed to be composed of deputies of all of the ministries of Georgia. And it worked for about 4 years. Because it was a true, as a friend of mine calls it, whole of nation approach. And Georgia, and I have a fair amount of experience in national security, Georgia is the only country that I know of in the world that has ever looked at a whole of nation approach to national security. And that's something Georgia should be proud of, and I keep trying to get it started again.
და რაც შემიძლია თქვა ჩემთვის თქვა ჩემთან საამაყოთ რომ ყოველთვის ცდილობდი ამ კუთხით რაღაც გარკვეული ბიცკი მიმეცა.
I think one of the biggest challenges was the changes to the Constitution that set up the powers of the President and the Prime Minister.
და ერთ-ერთი რაღაც მნიშვნელოვანი იყო ეროვნული უსაფრთხოების თვალსაზრისით იყო ის რომ გაიმიჯნა ფუნქციები პრეზიდენტისა და პრემიერ-მინისტრის რაც ეროვნული